are in the description down below. And shout out to those who have been buying our merch and supporting us. We're gonna start this haircut by lightly damping the hair and combing it in its neutral position. Here I got the number 8 guard lever closed. I'm gonna run that throughout the whole top. And after every couple strokes, you want to make sure you recomb the hair just to get it to lay in its neutral position, and you can always ensure that you're cutting against the grain. And for every haircut, I always go over the top multiple times. I hate to see the frizz that sticks out, or when you can tell that the top is uneven on haircuts. All because the barber was rushing or just simply didn't care to go over it again. And as we all know, haircutting can be tedious, so you always want to make sure you're working with a clean space. So here I'm just dusting them off now that we're done with the top. And now we're going to start with a number 2 guard lever fully open, and this is just to clean out the sides. Because when you come in and set your guidelines, you want to make sure that you can literally see your guidelines as detailed as possible. Now to set in our first guideline, we're going to use no guard and close the lever completely. And we're going to start right at that temple peak area and drop it as we approach the back of the ear. And you want to be soft and subtle with these guidelines, just so it's a lot easier when we come back down and erase them. And to those who are curious, yes, my clippers are zero gap. I always zero gap my actual hair cutting clippers and my trimmers. Make sure you end up at that same temple peak area on the opposite side. Now with the lever fully open, we're going to create our second guideline coming up about 1 inch or so. Just make sure that you stay consistently parallel to the guideline underneath to make sure your fade is consistent throughout. And one thing I highly recommend is you keep a small brush on your opposite hand, and after every couple strokes you brush your surface. Now with the number 1 guard lever still fully open, we're going to come in and create our third guideline. Again, flicking out towards the top to make sure that these guidelines are as soft as possible, yet still keeping it parallel consistently to the one underneath it. And we're going to take that all around the head. Now with my number 2 guard lever still fully open, we're going to come in and continue the process. And with this higher guard, I usually do exaggerate that flick out motion. Now with my number 3 guard lever still fully open, I'm gonna just continue the process, keep cleaning out the surface. And I'm gonna go ahead and do the exact same thing with my number 4 guard. And this is basically, I'm just trying to connect the sides to the top. And I usually never really use anything higher than a number 4 guard. So anything over the number 4 guard, I usually do either like clipper over comb or shear over comb. As you can see, we still got a little bit of bulk around the parietal ridge and crown area, so I'm just going to come in with my thinning shears over comb and reduce that bulk. As of now, you should have your first guideline that we created with the 0, the second that we created with the lever open, and third that we created with the number 1 guard lever open. We're going to start with our number 1.5 guard, and we're going to close the lever just slightly, putting it in a 3/4 position. It's basically in between halfway and fully open. And we're going to start with that top guideline and work our way down, using mainly just the corners of the clipper to get in these tighter areas, and just try to make sure that we don't take the fade any higher. Now with my half guard, I'm gonna leave the lever in that same 3/4 position and start digging at that second guideline coming down. take that all around the head, and if you notice, this step is creating a faint guideline right above it, but do not take this guard any higher, as we will come back right now with a 1 guard and remove that faint line. Like I was mentioning, now I got the number 1 guard, but we're going to leave the lever in that same 3/4 position and attack that faint line that the half guard created. So if you did notice, as we set up the process and set up these guidelines, I leave my lever fully open, and when we're working our way back down, I leave the lever in that 3/4 position, and the only thing that we're changing is the guards. Now for that last line, we're going to use a 3-step process, starting with the lever closed, and then we're going to open it halfway, and then we're going to open it up completely. We're going to work in sections at a time, focusing just on this left side of the head. We're going to take each of those notches up just slightly. So here I'm starting with the lever closed, taking it up just a bit using mainly the corners of the clipper, and now I'm going to put the lever halfway and continue that process. And finally, I'm gonna open it up completely and attack that last line. And by the end of this step, your fade is pretty much complete. So you're just gonna wanna repeat that same 3-step process around the whole head. As for the back, I do break it down into 2 smaller sections, just because, as we all know, the back, it's a very difficult area. So I like to focus on the detail as much as possible. So here again, I'm just starting with the lever closed. And now we're going to open it up halfway and take each of those steps just slightly up, guys. Don't not take them any higher, and just take your time with this last line. Again, all these steps are in the description down below in case you want to screenshot them and you like to follow along that way. And we do have a video on how we zero gap our clippers. I will put it in the description down below for y'all guys to check it out. We basically just put it in the beginning of another tutorial. But I'm gonna go ahead and link that down for y'all, and be sure to check it out and zero gap y'all's clippers as soon as possible, guys. It makes a huge difference. I highly recommend it. We're pretty much done with the fade here. Now you're gonna want to use your trimmer in this position just so we can get a lot closer to the scalp, and follow that by turning your trimmer around and erasing that faint guideline that created. And what this is going to do, this is just going to get a lot closer to the scalp, like I mentioned, and it's going to give us a guideline so we know exactly how high up to take the shaver. And before you use your trimmer in this position, I highly recommend that you test it on the inside of your forearm, just to ensure that your clippers are not scratching or biting. And as we begin to remove the bottom hair, you're gonna notice that faint line that I was speaking of. And this is just exactly how high up we're gonna take the electric shaver now. And you always want to turn your electric shaver around as you approach that faint line, and try to use mainly just the corners of it, just to ensure that we don't create another guideline and then push the fade up higher. As for the back, you always want to make sure you're shaving against the grain, so here I'm running the back of my fingers on his neck just so I can see in what direction the grain is growing to just confirm that I'm cutting and shaving against the grain. Here I'm using a number 1 guard lever fully open just to take off the long hairs that the eyebrows have. As for the edge up, we're going to use Pump It Up by Spritz, and this is just going to freeze the hair in a downward position. You want to cover his eyes and spray a few times on his hairline, comb it down, and then you can either let it air dry or rush the process by blow drying it. But while that dries, we're going to go ahead and clean up his eyebrows. When shaving with the straight razor, you always want to make sure that you're stretching the skin with the opposite hand to ensure a smoother shave. And we're going to start at the middle of his forehead and work our way to one side. And when we're done with that side, I always come back to the middle, basically just to reset myself, and then work my way to the opposite side. Quick tip I got for y'all: before I apply the shaving gel, I do lubricate the area with a little bit of water. And we're gonna start by shaving with the grain and then follow that by shaving against the grain. And you want to clean your client up as much as possible. Take a step back and remove any frizz that sticks out. I usually just freehand it with my trimmers, and this just basically gives a fade a tighter and cleaner look. Now we're going to grab a little bit of matte pomade, and we're going to emulsify it to where it almost disappears in your hand, and just run that through the surface. This is going to bring out the texture of the hair. We're going to apply a little bit of hair enhancements, and yes, I do dilute mine with half water, half dye. In case y'all forgot, here's the before. As you can see, came in looking real scruffy, my man EJ. And here's the after. We got a bald mid fade with a number 8 on top. I hope y'all enjoyed this tutorial, guys. Let us know down in the comments below what y'all would like for us to do next. Thank y'all for tuning in. Till next time, peace.